Blaine's smooth voice echoed in my ears, each word a dagger to my heart. I did what I had to do to secure my inheritance, babe. Now that it's done, this sham of a marriage can finally end. I froze, clutching the phone as my husband's cruel admission washed over me. The man I loved, the life I thought we shared, crumbled with those callous words. Tears stung my eyes as rage and devastation battled within me. How could the person I trusted most harbor such deceit? I should have seen the signs, the late nights, the unexplained absences, the emotional distance. But love blinded me to the harsh truth unraveling before me. I hung up the phone, hands trembling. Blaine's lies had shattered the fragile illusion of our marriage, leaving me adrift in a sea of betrayal. But as the initial shock subsided, a steely resolve took root. I would not be a victim, a mere casualty of his selfish ambition. With renewed purpose, I scoured our home, my eyes peeled for any clues to Blaine's true nature. The evidence mounted: secret bank accounts, hotel receipts, even a discarded lipstick that wasn't mine. Each discovery fueled the fire burning within me, a righteous fury that would not be extinguished until I had unraveled every last thread of his deception. When Blaine returned home that night, I greeted him with a mask of normalcy, my anger simmering beneath the surface. As he prattled on about his day, oblivious to the storm brewing, I studied his face, the face of a man I no longer recognized. The man I loved was a mere facade, a carefully crafted illusion to conceal his true self. In that moment, I vowed to strip away the layers of his lies, to expose the ugliness festering beneath. I would not go down without a fight. Blaine had chosen this path, and I would make him face the consequences of his actions, no matter the cost. Mara's eyes widened as I relayed Blaine's damning confession. "That snake," she spat, clutching my hand. I knew he was slippery, but to use you like that... Her voice trailed off, rage flickering across her face. I nodded, steeling myself against the fresh wave of pain. He played me for a fool, but I won't let him get away with it. Determination hardened my resolve as I revealed the evidence I had uncovered. The secret accounts, the hotel receipts, the telltale lipstick. Mara shook her head in disbelief. "Unbelievable. Do you know who the other woman is?" I hesitated, bracing myself for the blow. "Her name is Elise Hampton. She's barely out of college." Mara's eyes narrowed. "That's sleaze, using some naive girl to cover up his schemes." She squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, we'll make him pay for this." Over the next few days, Mara and I pored over every scrap of evidence, building an airtight case against Blaine's betrayal. We discovered Elise was a mere pawn in his game, blissfully unaware of his true motives, a young woman seduced by charm and empty promises. Armed with the truth, we paid her a visit. Elise's eyes grew wide as saucers when we confronted her with the evidence, her illusions shattering like glass. "But he said he loved me," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Mara scoffed. "Wake up, sweetheart, you're just a side piece to secure his exit plan." Elise's anguished sobs echoed in the room as the weight of Blaine's deception crashed over her. In that moment, I felt a twisted pang of empathy. We were both victims of the same man's lies. But empathy soon gave way to steely determination. If Elise was too blind to see the truth, so be it. I would not let her naivete derail my quest for justice. "Pull yourself together," I snapped, my voice harder than I intended. "Are you going to let him walk all over you, too?" Elise's eyes hardened, her tears drying as a newfound resolve took hold. "No, that bastard is going to pay for this." A grim smile tugged at my lips. Glad we're on the same page. With Elise's cooperation secured, Mara and I set our plan in motion. We would expose Blaine's web of lies, piece by damning piece, until he was left with nothing but the consequences of his own actions. As I lay awake that night, my mind raced with the days ahead. Blaine's betrayal had shaken me to my core, but I would not let it break me. I would emerge from this crucible stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever challenges life threw my way, with or without him by my side. With Elise on board, our next step was clear. We needed legal muscle to take down Blaine. Mara knew just the person, Cora Stein, a razor-sharp attorney with a reputation for not backing down. The moment Cora swept into the room, I knew we'd found our ally. Her steely gaze sized me up as I laid out the facts: Blaine's lies, his infidelity, his calculated schemes. To her credit, she didn't flinch. "This guy's a real piece of work," Cora said, shaking her head. But don't worry, we'll make sure he doesn't get away with it. Relief washed over me, but Cora wasn't done. First things first, we need to protect your assets. Change all your passwords, open new accounts, the works. We can't give him any chance to raid what's rightfully yours. I nodded, my jaw set in determination. Mara squeezed my hand, her silent support bolstering my resolve. Over the next few days, Cora coached me through every step, her sharp wit and sarcastic quips keeping me grounded. As we methodically untangled my finances from Blaine's reach, she let out a low whistle. This guy really thought he had it all figured out, didn't he? He's about to learn how wrong he was, I said, a hint of satisfaction creeping into my voice. With my assets secure, Cora turned her attention to building an ironclad case. She left no stone unturned, poring over every shred of evidence with a scrutiny that bordered on obsession. We need to cover all our bases, she explained. This guy's not going down without a fight. Her words proved prophetic. When Blaine finally caught wind of our moves, he came storming into Cora's office, red-faced and sputtering. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded, his eyes darting between us. "You're making a huge mistake." Cora simply arched an eyebrow, unfazed by his bluster. "I think the only mistake was you underestimating your wife." Blaine turned to me, his expression a sickening mix of rage and desperation. "Lila, baby, you've got to listen to me. This is all just a big misunderstanding." I met his gaze, my heart hardening against the man I once loved. "Save it, Blaine. The only thing I'm listening to is the truth, and I've heard enough of your lies." His face contorted in fury, but Cora was already ushering him out, her voice clipped and firm. "I think you've said enough. We'll see you in court." As the door slammed behind him, Mara let out a low whistle. "That man's got some nerve." Cora just shrugged. They always do, but not for long. Her words rang in my ears, a silent promise that justice would prevail. Blaine's carefully crafted world was crumbling around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. With my finances secured and Cora's legal prowess at my back, it was time to turn the tables on Blaine. He thought he could waltz away unscathed, but I had other plans. First, we needed to sow seeds of doubt among his social circle. Blaine had always prided himself on his charming persona, using it to ingratiate himself with the city's elite. But that same charm was about to become his undoing. Cora set up a series of strategic chance encounters with Blaine's closest friends and business associates. With a pointed remark here, a meaningful pause there, she planted the first inklings of suspicion. "So, Blaine's been working a lot of late nights, huh?" she mused to his golf buddy over drinks. "Must be tough on the old marriage." The confused look on the man's face was priceless. "What do you mean? I thought everything was fine between them." Cora just shrugged, letting the implication linger. As word spread through whispered conversations and furtive glances, Blaine's perfect facade began to crack. His friends, once so enamored by his easy charisma, now regarded him with a wariness he couldn't understand. Meanwhile, I played the role of the oblivious wife to perfection, greeting Blaine's colleagues with a bright smile and an air of naive contentment. Their forced smiles and awkward silences only added to the mounting tension. The final piece fell into place at the Wentworth Gala, one of the city's most prestigious social events. As the who's who of high society mingled over champagne and canapes, I made my move. Sidling up to a cluster of Blaine's closest cronies, I let out a theatrical sigh. I don't know what's gotten into Blaine lately. He's been so distant, working such long hours. Sometimes I worry. I trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. The reaction was instantaneous. Uncomfortable glances were exchanged, and hushed murmurs rippled through the group. Blaine, oblivious to the proceedings, continued schmoozing across the room, his false charm on full display. By the time he rejoined his circle, the damage was done. The forced smiles, the weighted silences, they all reeked of doubt and mistrust. Blaine's brow furrowed as he sensed the shift in the atmosphere, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. I watched it all unfold with a sense of grim satisfaction. The cracks in Blaine's carefully constructed life were spreading, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. As we left the gala, Mara pulled me aside, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "Did you see their faces? He's going to be left with no one in his corner." I allowed myself a small smile. Good. He's going to need all the friends he can get when this is over. Blaine's downfall was set in motion. and there was no turning back. It was only a matter of time before his lies came crashing down around him, and I would be there to watch it all unfold. With Blaine's social circle primed for his downfall, it was time to set the final pieces in motion. Elise was the key, the unwitting pawn who would expose his lies to the world. We arranged for her to attend the Wilton Foundation Gala, a high-profile event where all of Blaine's friends and associates would be present. Cora coached her meticulously, ensuring she knew exactly what to do. "Just act natural," Cora instructed. "Let him think everything is going according to his plan." Elise nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Despite her initial naivete, she had grown resolute in her quest for justice. The night of the gala, I watched from across the room as Blaine greeted Elise with his trademark charm. He was in his element, schmoozing and networking with the city's elite, completely oblivious to the storm brewing around him. As the evening wore on, I caught glimpses of them together, laughing, flirting, playing the part of the happy couple. Each stolen glance twisted the knife in my heart, but I refused to let it show. Finally, the moment arrived. Cora gave me a subtle nod, and I excused myself from my conversation, making my way towards Blaine and Elise. As I approached, I could hear their laughter, Blaine's arm draped possessively around her waist. "There you are, darling," I called out, putting on my best innocent smile. "And who's your lovely friend?" Blaine's eyes went wide, panic flashing across his features. Elise, however, remained perfectly composed. "I'm Elise," she said sweetly, "Blaine's girlfriend." A hush fell over the nearby guests, their expressions ranging from shock to utter disbelief. Blaine sputtered, his carefully cultivated mask crumbling before my eyes. "Lila, wait, it's not what you think." But I was already turning away, my face a portrait of heartbroken devastation. "How could you, Blaine, after everything we've been through?" The murmurs grew louder, whispers of affair and cheater rippling through the crowd. Blaine's once polished veneer was shattered, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. Mara appeared at my side, her arm around my shoulders in a show of support. "Come on, Lila. You don't need to subject yourself to this." As we made our way out, I couldn't resist one last look over my shoulder. Blaine stood in the middle of the room, alone and humiliated, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Once outside, Mara pulled me into a fierce hug. "You were incredible in there," she whispered. "That bastard got exactly what he deserved." I nodded, struggling to keep my emotions in check. It's not over yet, but he's going to wish it was. As the whispers and rumors spread like wildfire through the city's social circles, Blaine's reputation lay in tatters. The once charming schemer was now a pariah, his lies and deceit exposed for all to see. And I would be there, watching it all unfold, savoring every moment of his well-deserved downfall. The next morning, Blaine stormed into Cora's office, his face twisted with fury. "You set me up," he roared, slamming his fist on the desk. "This is all your doing." Cora remained unfazed, leaning back in her chair with a cool smile. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb with me," Blaine seethed. "The gala, Elise. It was all a trap, and you knew about it." Mara scoffed from her seat beside me. "Maybe if you hadn't been such a lying scumbag, none of this would have happened." Blaine whirled on her, his eyes wild. "Stay out of this. This is between me and my wife." I met his gaze evenly, my voice steady despite the rage simmering inside me. "Ex-wife. And it's been over since the moment you decided to betray me." Blaine's jaw clenched, and for a moment I thought he might lunge across the desk, but Cora was ready, her hand hovering over the phone. "I'd watch myself if I were you," she warned. "We have more than enough evidence to bury you in court." Blaine deflated, sinking into the chair opposite us. His bravado evaporated, leaving him a pathetic, broken shell of a man. "How could you do this to me, Lila?" he pleaded, his voice tinged with desperation. "After everything we've been through?" I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, mirthless sound. "You mean after you used me to secure your inheritance? After you cheated and lied and planned to discard me like trash?" Shame flickered across his face, but I wasn't done. "You brought this on yourself, Blaine. Every step of the way, I gave you a chance to come clean, to do the right thing. But you chose deceit, and now you're going to face the consequences." Mara nodded, her expression grim. "You dug your own grave, buddy. Now lie in it." Blaine's shoulders slumped in defeat, his arrogance finally shattered. "What do you want from me?" Cora leaned forward, her eyes glinting with determination. A divorce on our terms. You'll sign over the house, the cars, everything, and you'll pay alimony until the day you die. Blaine's head jerked up, defiance flashing across his features. Like hell I will! You can't just take everything from me. But Cora was ready, sliding a thick stack of documents across the desk. These say otherwise. Unless you want your dirty laundry aired out in court for the whole world to see? His face paled as he scanned the pages, the weight of the evidence laid bare before him. With a trembling hand, he reached for the pen. As he scrawled his signature, resigning himself to his fate, I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. This man, who had so callously trampled on my heart and our vows, was finally getting his due. When the last document was signed, Blaine looked up at me, his eyes hollow and defeated. I hope you're happy now. I met his gaze, unflinching. Believe me, I will be. As he trudged out of the office, a broken man, Mara let out a low whistle. Damn, you really stuck it to him. I nodded, the weight of everything finally lifting from my shoulders. He had it coming. Now I can finally move on. Cora flashed a rare smile. That's the spirit. This is a new beginning for you, Lila. Make the most of it. Her words resonated deep within me, igniting a newfound sense of purpose. Blaine's betrayal had nearly broken me, but in the end, it had forged me into a stronger, more resilient version of myself. As I stepped out into the sunlight, a weight lifted from my shoulders. I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them head-on. This was my life now, and I was in control. In the days following the divorce, I watched with grim satisfaction as Blaine's life unraveled before his eyes. The man who had once been so confident, so sure of his ability to manipulate those around him, was now a pariah, shunned by the very circles he had once moved in with ease. Everywhere he went, whispers followed, the scandalous details of his affair and deceit spreading like wildfire through the city's social elite. Doors that had once been wide open to him now slammed shut, his former friends and colleagues regarding him with a mixture of disgust and pity. I can't believe he thought he could get away with it, one of his golf buddies muttered as Blaine approached the clubhouse, only to be turned away at the door. The guy's a real piece of work. Blaine's business dealings fared no better. With his reputation in tatters, clients and investors began jumping ship, unwilling to be associated with such a toxic figure. Deals that had once been all but guaranteed fell through, leaving him scrambling to salvage what was left of his professional life. I'm sorry, Blaine, his longtime partner said with a shake of his head. But after everything that's come to light, I just can't risk keeping you on board. It's bad for business. Through it all, Blaine tried desperately to cling to his former life, to maintain the illusion of control. But with each rejected handshake, each averted gaze, the reality of his situation became increasingly clear. This is all you're doing, isn't it? He snarled at me during one of our mandated meetings. You just couldn't leave well enough alone. I met his accusations with a cool stare. I'm just living my life, Blaine. It's not my fault everyone else can finally see you for who you really are. His face contorted with rage, but there was nothing he could do. The legal documents binding us had seen to that, stripping him of the power and influence he had once taken for granted. As the weeks passed, Blaine's downward spiral only accelerated. His once immaculate suits grew rumpled and ill-fitting, his grooming lax. The man who had once carried himself with such arrogant poise now shuffled through the streets, head down, a mere shadow of his former self. Look at him, Mara murmured as we passed him on the street one day. He's completely unraveled. I said nothing, simply watching as Blaine hurried past, his eyes downcast, unwilling to meet our gaze. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of pity for the man who had once so thoroughly betrayed me, but the pity was fleeting, quickly replaced by a steely resolve. Blaine had made his choices, and now he was facing the consequences, just as I had promised him he would. As I went about my days, rebuilding my life and exploring new ventures, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Blaine's world may have crumbled around him, but mine was just beginning to take shape. And this time, I was the one in control. The weight of the settlement check in my hands felt like a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and leave the painful memories of Blaine's betrayal behind. As I deposited the funds, a sense of possibility washed over me. For the first time in years, I was in control of my own destiny. Of course, Mara was there every step of the way, her unwavering support, a constant source of strength. "So what's the plan?" she asked over celebratory mimosas. "The world is your oyster now, girl." A smile tugged at my lips as I considered the options before me. Travel, start a business, go back to school, the possibilities were endless. But as my mind wandered, an idea began to take shape, one that spoke to the very core of my experience. What if I started a nonprofit? I mused aloud. Something to help other women who have been through what I have. Mara's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. A safe haven, a support system. You could change so many lives." The more I thought about it, the more the idea resonated within me. I had been through hell and back, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. If I could use my experience to help others navigate the same treacherous waters, to guide them towards the light at the end of the tunnel, then perhaps my suffering would have meant something. Over the next few weeks, I poured myself into researching, planning, and networking. I wanted to create a comprehensive program that addressed every aspect of recovery: legal aid, counseling, job training, you name it. No stone would be left unturned in my quest to provide a safe haven for those who had been wronged. Cora, ever the stalwart ally, was one of the first to offer her services pro bono. "Consider it my way of giving back," she said with a rare smile. "Lord knows there are plenty of scumbags out there who need to be taken down a peg or two." As word of my endeavor spread, more and more people rallied to the cause. Lawyers, therapists, career coaches, all united in their desire to make a difference. It was humbling to see so many selfless individuals coming together, all because of one woman's dream. The day we opened our doors was a moment I'll never forget. Women from all walks of life streamed in, their faces etched with pain and uncertainty, but also a glimmer of hope. As I welcomed them, sharing my own story and the hard-won lessons I had learned, I could see that spark ignite within them. The realization that they were not alone, that there was a path forward, no matter how daunting it may seem. In the months and years that followed, our little sanctuary blossomed into a true force for change. Women who had once been beaten down and broken found their voices, their strength, their sense of self-worth. They went on to rebuild their lives, secure in the knowledge that they had a support system behind them every step of the way. And through it all, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude for the twists and turns that had led me to this point. Blaine's betrayal, as devastating as it had been, had ultimately shaped me into the woman I was today, resilient, compassionate, and unafraid to fight for what was right. As I looked out over the bustling center, my heart swelled with pride. This was my legacy, my redemption story written in the lives of countless others. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges the future held, I was ready to face them head-on. Not as a victim, but as a survivor, a warrior, and a guiding light for those still lost in the darkness.